Well, I think that we could go beyond there and actually start to have a new system, basically, of actually a system of rationing air miles, so that if people who don't use their ration, and most people in this country don't. Most people in this country don't fly from one year's end to the other. So you could actually get a bonus for not flying. So then there comes to the thing that all politicians actually like doing, which is cutting spending. And I think, yeah, absolutely right. There's all sorts of unnecessary waste we could cut, like, for example, ID cards, the NHS National Database, motorway and major road building programmes, Trident, 2 new aircraft carriers at 25 billion each. Cancelling Trident on its own would save 100 billion over the next 40 years. So these sort of things, the things that I was able to find, I'm sure everybody's got other things that could be cut, would save something from year one, would save something like 7 billion a year. I mean, defence policy is, I think it's a bit the equivalent to the businessman's red Ferrari, really. You know, that we've got to have Trident because it makes us feel that the empire's still there. If we were to get rid of our sort of ridiculous and expensive posturing with nuclear weapons, with not being a member of NATO, we wouldn't need an annual defence budget of £33 billion. Now, I'd suggest that over a period of time, we could actually say over a 4-year period we could cut that defence budget by 2/3, giving us an annual growth in saving of 5.5 billion in year 1, leading to 22 billion saving in year 4. So the fact is that when we're told that something that's worthwhile can't be afforded, the fact is it can be afforded. It's just it's a matter of priorities. As Naren Bevan said, I never understood what he meant actually at the time, that socialism was all about priorities. It's actually we decide that some things, like decent warm homes for elderly people, a decent standard of living for people, and employment for people who are able to do it. Those are our priorities, and we'll pay for them. So when Norway started to develop its oil and gas fields, it developed a pension fund with a fund to basically all the money from the oil fields went into a pension fund to underpin. It's now the second largest in the world, worth $325 billion. The fact is that if we were to use national insurance payments to fund a similar national pension and investment fund in this country, it would provide both the necessary financial underpinning for a new universal pension scheme and provide the funding for direct government investment in both necessary public works and our green industrial revolution. So if a British national pension and investment fund was to avoid the route that the Norwegian scheme's taken, they recently went into foreign investment and have taken a lot of heat as a result. It would generate the bulk of funding for the desperately needed extensions of public ownership and provide a solid basis for public enterprise and endogenous social and industrial development in this country. The fact is that that's not just going to happen because we say it's a good idea. These sort of demands really have value in actually saying to people, look, it needn't be like this. There are other ways we can do things. There are other fairer ways to organise society, and we should be organising to ensure that that happens. So in other words, what we should be doing is to use these demands, and this is, you know, these are very much provisional demands. I mean, some of them might not work, and others might be much more valuable. But the fact is that these sort of demands actually challenge the basic values of the society, of the system that's got us all into such a mess. And we should be using these demands in two ways. Firstly, as an organising tool to actually say to ordinary people, it can be different. You don't need to accept this. And secondly, as something that we can start to reorganise the forces of opposition and progressive forces in this country round. Now, in March 2009, the People's Charter for Change was launched at the House of Commons. All the great and the good of all the sort of well-known figures on the left, Tony Benn, Billy Bragg, Victoria Britton, Bob Crow, I have to say a number of people I've never heard of, were there for the launch, and we've got the demands of the charter in the back of the pamphlet, and they're not as detailed as much of what's in the pamphlet, but they're fine. A fairer economy for a fairer Britain, more and better jobs, decent homes for all, protect and improve our public services, fairness and justice, build a secure and sustainable future for all. It's fine. It's perfectly right. And I think it seems to me that we should be using that charter is an example of what we could work around and use as a basis for discussion, but also use as a basis for organisation. I mean, basically the situation we're in is that, and what this pamphlet was aimed to help, is the situation that we're in is that the Keynesianism failed, or the version of Keynesianism around at the time failed in the 70s. Neoliberalism has failed us now. The system has failed, and we've got to say we can't afford just to sit here and let the state pick up the pieces in order to prop up the shattered remains in order for the next crisis from which we might not recover come along. That we have to actually start organising. When I say we, I mean all of us, from in pensioners' organisations, trade unionists, people. Believe it or not, there are loads of decent people in the Labour Party, people in the anti-war movement, wherever they are. We need to be using this pamphlet, the People's Charter, or indeed anything else, to mobilise people around so that we can build a new movement which is capable of producing the new world that we now so desperately need.